It's been about 16 months now since my very last round of hCG, and what I thought I'd like to start doing is actually doing like a quarterly update on, just how I'm doing in maintenance. There's not a lot of information out there about how people are doing after hCG, and so I thought what I would do is do this, tell you how the last few months have gone every few months, and I think what could be helpful about it is, even though I've maintained my weight loss from hCG, I lost about 50 pounds, it's not like I've been the exact same weight every day for the last, almost year and a half now. So I feel like by showing you guys, the ups and downs that I have had over the last year and a half, and what I do to keep things in balance, what I do to correct, and just all of that stuff can help you guys figure out, first of all, what's normal, and then second of all, how to go about creating that balance for yourself as well as you come to a close on your hCG journey. So anyway, I hope you guys find it helpful. I'm going to be a little bit casual about this, even though I did kind of, I wrote basically some things down over the last few months. I tracked things. I'm going to show you my calendar where you can see pretty much my daily weight for the last 3 months. And just a few things like that, just to give you an idea of what it's like in normal everyday life. I think that there's really a misconception of what maintaining weight loss means. And I really don't think it means that you never gain any weight, no pounds whatsoever every single day of your life, because I just don't think that's realistic. So to me, what's realistic is that in general, you stay around the same weight. Sometimes life gets tough and maybe you go up a little bit, but you catch it. You catch it before it gets out of hand. You correct, you kind of tighten things up, and it comes back down. And really, that's essentially, how things have been for me for the last 16 months. So anyway, I want to just tell you, what I've been up to. So one of the things I'm actually up to is creating like a visual gallery of P2 foods for hCGChica.com. And I just wanted to share a funny thing. In January, I was taking photos of P2 foods, and I took 80 photos of asparagus, 166 photos of spinach, and 114 photos of cucumber. So, sounds really pathetic, doesn't it? But thankfully, we have digital cameras, so it doesn't matter. I can take as many pictures as I want. And that's how I go about getting the absolute best photo, is by taking a million. So anyway, I want to tell you about my current eating habits, how I'm eating in everyday life now. This is not to say that that would work for you. What I have discovered is that we have different food sensitivities that really can affect our ability to maintain weight loss. Because when you eat foods you're sensitive to, it causes inflammation and it makes your body hold on both to water and, I think, to fat as well. So for me, I'm not paleo. People ask me that a lot, and I think that sounds like a great way of eating, but paleo involves eating nuts, which I have discovered my body does not digest nuts well. So, so I'm not paleo. I guess you could call it kind of close to that, but it's not. So basically what I don't eat, I'm dairy-free, except for about maybe a teaspoon of half and half in my black tea every morning. I do still have that, but outside of that, I'm completely dairy-free. I don't eat any cheese, no milk, any foods that contain milk products I don't eat. No ice cream, no yogurt. Yogurt used to be a daily part of my diet. I don't eat yogurt anymore. Now, it's been about 6 months now that I've been dairy-free. I'm also nut-free, and again, it's also been 6 months. I removed both food groups at the same time. So I'm nut-free. I don't eat any nuts. I do eat seeds, though. So like I have pine nuts in my kale salad, and pine nuts are technically considered a seed, not a nut. So anyway, so if you see me, that's why you might be wondering. So things like sesame seeds, I could still eat that. Sunflower seeds, sometimes I have like some sun butter. So those are technically seeds, and that I do still eat because my body seems to be okay with it. I'm also gluten-free. I've been gluten-free for 3 years now. I can't believe it. I just had my 3rd year anniversary in February for being gluten-free. And so, you know, that's been another big part of my health for sure. I've definitely discovered that I'm very sensitive to gluten because now if on occasion, if I have it accidentally or in the past I've tried it on purpose and I experience a lot of a searing pain in my intestines. So that's something that I'm completely free of. So what do I eat then? Basically, I eat meat, I eat vegetables, and I eat grain on occasion. Not wheat grain, but gluten-free grains. Mostly the grain that I consume is in the form of rice and corn, organic corn. It's not a daily thing. Like for instance, we might go out to Thai food, you know, to a Thai food restaurant once a week. And if we do that, I go ahead and have white rice because I like white rice and I don't eat it every day. So I'll have the white rice with my Thai meal and I'll eat a good portion of it and I'll leave feeling pretty full. So I'll do that. Sometimes I get into a little kick where I'll be getting either organic corn tortillas or maybe popping my own popcorn. So I'll do that sometimes. Now what I've discovered with the corn products, even organic, is that I can't do it like on a daily basis for weeks on end. So sometimes I'll maybe kind of get into a kick of popcorn, say, and I'll make popcorn every night or every other night for a couple weeks. And I can do that for a little bit. But after a week or two, I'll start to notice the scale going up a little. And so right about that time, I'll kind of take it back out or just take a break from the popcorn or tortilla thing for a little while. And then, I won't have it for a little while. And then I may have it again a night or two. But then, if I'm feeling really good and I'm in control of, my body and everything's going well, I'll just kind of not eat it too frequently because I don't feel the need to. So things like that. So I also eat a lot of fruit. So a lot of those little clementines, I love those. I have frozen mango in my smoothies all the time. So those are probably the two main fruits that I'm eating right now. I find berries hurt my little intestines as well, so I'm kind of off of berries, sadly. But yeah, so I do have quite a bit of fruit though in those other forms. And let's see, also, when it comes to vegetables, I have, things like potatoes. So they're not like all low-carb vegetables. I have peas. I have potato chips at times. I have tortilla chips at times. But again, those types of things I don't have on a daily basis. It's more of maybe like on a weekly basis that I would eat that stuff. So one thing I eat a lot of, and basically I took a bunch of pictures throughout the last few months of different meals that I ate, so I'll go ahead and stick those in here to show you guys. But I eat a lot of like kale salads. I love raw kale now, and I have them almost every day, probably almost a whole head of kale. And I do eat dried cranberries with it, which, as some of you may know, there is sugar added to dried cranberries. But when I eat it with the dried kale and pine nuts and then my own dressing from just olive oil and balsamic vinegar and salt, I feel great and it feels fine. It doesn't contribute to sugar cravings for me or anything. So I eat that frequently and I love it. When it comes to proteins, I don't stick to like low fat or high fat meats. I just kind of eat whatever I feel like eating. I eat a lot of ground beef, ground lamb. I eat a lot of chicken, both thighs and breast. I don't have turkey very often. I do like turkey though. Let's see. I guess that's it. Yeah, just a lot of, I do eat quite a bit of red meat in my diet. So it's always grass-fed or pasture-raised chicken, all that stuff. We do have quite a grocery bill. I eat pasture-raised eggs sometimes, so I love those. And yeah, so just, basically stuff like that. So I probably would say the largest portion of my diet each day comes from meat, fruit, and kale. And then I do eat other vegetables as well, but those take a little more effort. To me, cooking vegetables seems to take a lot of time and effort, and I'm really not much of a chef. I hate spending a lot of time on making food, basically, because I just don't like food being a huge part of my life. I mean, I know I have to eat, but you know, I spend so much time just working on hCG stuff for my website and spending time with my family, and it's like I just don't want to spend hours of time preparing a meal that I'm going to eat in like 10 minutes. So it's just, I know other people are so into that, and I love it because then I can refer them to you guys for those of you who want those really cool recipes, but I'm just not into that. And for me, I don't know, it just feels like a waste of time for me, you know? So I eat very simply. I don't season a lot of things. I just keep things simple. And when I find foods that I like, that my body seems to like, I just kind of eat those, and I eat them on a daily basis. So anyway, what I've been working on. So the last few months, you know, it's good to have things that, you know we need to improve on. For me, I've been trying to add more raw vegetables into my diet, and so far that's pretty much just been the kale. But what I love so much about the raw kale salads, and I should note here, like when you start eating more raw vegetables, you're supposed to kind of gradually introduce it because your body's not adjusted to digesting them at first. So you want to like gradually increase the amounts. So, but I'm at that point where I really can eat a whole head of kale in one salad and feel fine. And what I love about it is literally my kale salads, they're the only food I can eat, and that's with the dressing and the dried cranberries and the pine nuts. But when I eat that meal, I don't feel any different after eating it. And by that I mean, usually when I eat a meal, any other meal, I'll feel a little bit more tired, or like I can tell there's stuff in my stomach that's digesting, making me feel just a little bit more lethargic or a little slower, or you know, not necessarily bad, but just that definitely something's going on and my body is, you know, processing it. When I eat my kale salads, however, I feel like just the same. Like I feel just as energetic. Like there's nothing there, like I'm, you know, satisfied. I'm not hungry anymore, but I have like tons of energy. I don't feel like my body's working really hard doing anything. So it's almost like an effortless food that my body is digesting, and it's effortless for it, which means it's not requiring a lot of energy so that I can keep doing all the other stuff I was doing. So anyway, I just think that's kind of interesting. The other thing I changed in the last few months was I started CrossFitting 4 days a week. So I used to be consistent at 2 days a week, then I was consistent at 3 days a week, which was fine. But you know what, I've been getting so much stronger. It just feels so good when I go that I decided to start shooting for 4 days a week. And I have consistently gone to CrossFit 4 days a week for the last few months. And it's really felt good for me. Now, one of the drawbacks that I experienced, possibly in part due to adding that day in, is that the other parts of my life that I was doing, which included, you know, I was fasting intermittently here and there, not all the time, but maybe like once a week. Additionally, I was still on a small dose of thyroid medication. I used to take T3, it's called Cytomel, it's active thyroid hormone. So I still was on a low dose of that. And I had gotten kind of careless with eating after workouts. Just because of my previous results, you know how I do all my body fat testing and all that. I've done really well with gaining muscle and losing fat and all of that. And I don't know, I guess I was just starting to feel like it didn't matter so much if I didn't eat a meal or protein right after my workout. So I had gotten very lax with that. So sometimes I would come home from CrossFit, you know, at 1:30, and then I wouldn't bother eating anything until like 3 or 4, just because I was busy. And I figured it was fine. However, I went and had a body fat test. I'll try to show it to you guys in February 15th. And I wasn't too happy with the results, okay? So the previous one before that was maybe 4 months prior, okay? So this is like 4 months later or so, it's February. And it said that I had actually lost 1 pound of muscle and I had gained 1 pound of fat. And I was not happy with that because outside of the 1 pound fat gain, which is really not that bad in a 4 month span of time and that's easily corrected, I didn't think that it made sense that I would have lost a pound of muscle when I had been now I was CrossFitting 4 days a week. I'm getting all these workouts in. And actually I was feeling stronger, but I don't know, I was just like, that doesn't seem to make sense. So something isn't right. So basically I kind of analyzed everything that I was doing, and I'm like, okay, I am CrossFitting 4 days a week now. The things that I decided to change, and this is all that I changed, is I decided to get off my thyroid medication. And the reason I chose that, not suggesting this to other people, but the reason I chose that was I was already having other indicators that that it was something that I needed to do. Like, my body has recovered so much that I doesn't need it anymore, and I was getting some major like fatigue in the late afternoons that I wasn't having before. And I was also having a little bit of unexplained weight loss, which sometimes if you take too much thyroid hormone can cause that. Although who's gonna complain about weight loss, right? So I was thinking, well, it's fine. And then the other thing is, because I saw that muscle loss, even though I had been doing all this CrossFitting, what happens is if you take thyroid hormone when you don't need it, so your body is actually having an excess of T3, it can actually strip your muscle. That's what it does. So that was the other reason I got suspicious of it, because I thought, that's just not making sense. So I finally got off my last dose of thyroid medication, and I did that on, my last dose of thyroid was on February 15th. Yeah, so that day, that day that I had the body fat test, quick decision, right? So that was my very last day of thyroid medication. So that I changed that. The other thing that I changed was I started being more responsible with making sure that I ate protein after my workouts. So now when I finish CrossFit, I come home and I do eat meat protein. I come home and cook it up right away and I eat it. So I just felt like, that was another thing to work on and try that I'd gotten lax about. So aside from those two things, the only other difference that's been happening in my life between that body fat test and then the one I had just a couple days ago, which I'll tell you about in a second, is I had some follow-up Lyme disease treatment. Now, I don't want to go into all the details about this, but for some of you, you guys may know, back in November, I actually went out of town for an entire month for a special treatment for Lyme disease. Now, I have no testing to prove that I have Lyme disease, so I need to make that clear, first of all. I believe that I have it based on all of my symptoms that I've had over the last 10 years. It's very difficult to get a positive diagnosis for Lyme disease through testing. The testing for it is actually just highly inaccurate. There's false negatives all the time. So anyway, I don't honestly care about that. I felt like after all the research I did that's what I had. So anyway, I found this kind of alternative Lyme disease treatment that I wanted to try. It involves the use of cold laser and frequencies, and I did that all of November, and it is aimed at targeting Lyme disease. I came home feeling a lot better, like so much better, it's not even funny. So all December, January, February, feeling really good. However, I was starting to feel like just a slight regression again recently, and I decided to go for some follow-up just to check, just to see. The way that they check is with things like muscle testing. So, some of you guys may not believe in that out there, and that's fine. Myself, I really believe in muscle testing because I've had it done on me a lot of times for various conditions, and it's been very helpful to me. So anyway, he did basically pick up on some residual stages of Lyme in me, and so he's done some follow-up, and I do feel better, even more clear-headed, more energy again after having a few of these follow-up treatments. So that's the other thing that may have played a role in the results that I'm about to tell you about. So anyway, all of that comes down to that I had a follow-up body fat test on April 2nd. So kind of the conclusion of my first quarter weight maintenance, okay? My April 2nd body fat test, hopefully I could just insert it here for you guys. I was actually shocked. I knew that it would be better because I could tell, you know, just in my body and in my weight and how I was at CrossFit, I could tell that I was a little leaner. But, you know, this was only a difference of about 6 weeks. So a 6 weeks difference, okay, from the previous body fat test. In 6 weeks, my testing showed that I had lost, how much was it? I had lost almost 5 pounds of fat. I believe, is it almost 5? Yeah, almost 5 pounds of fat. And I had gained almost 2 pounds of muscle in just 6 weeks. And again, the only differences were no more thyroid medication, eating my protein after my workouts, and my follow-up Lyme treatment. Those were the 3 things that were different. And for me to have that kind of result in just 6 weeks was pretty shocking. And that put me at 15% body fat. So I don't know how much you guys know about body fat percent and stuff, but 15% for a woman is really good. I was really excited. I was like screaming actually. And then my son's in there going, woohoo! And he doesn't even know why he's saying that, you know. But anyway, I couldn't believe it. I've never even really believed that I would get to that body fat percent. It's not even so much the number, but it's just what it shows about how fit I'm getting, because I'm not 15% body fat from starving myself and being super skinny. I'm not super skinny. I'm actually quite muscled. And so like for instance, if you saw a picture of me at 15% body fat next to say a model at 15% body fat, we will look completely different. And that's because how much muscle I have for how much I weigh is different than the amount of muscle they have for how much they weigh. I don't know if that makes sense. It can vary. So I'm definitely muscled, and it's giving me more capability in CrossFit to be leaner, because the less fat you have and the more muscle, the more you're able to do. It's just easier. Just like, you know, if you pick up some kettlebells and you're trying to walk around, it's harder, right? Because it's more weight. So the less fat, which translates into weight, the lighter you feel and the more you're able to do. So anyway, I was so excited about that. Not only that, ever since I did take out my last dose of thyroid medication, my energy has been far more even. I don't have those afternoon slumps where it wasn't just a slump. It would be like I'd feel okay, and then somewhere around 2 or 3 I would just feel really knocked out and really crummy. And what's important about this, the takeaway here, you know, possibly for you guys, is that, you know, if you need thyroid medication, then definitely it can be so useful. I mean, when I first got on it, I had to take a pretty high dose, and it gave me my life back. I mean, I couldn't believe how much improvement I felt, and just in my body, you know, how I felt, my energy, what I was able to do, my brain function. So at that time, it was good. But if you get healthier through this process of hCG and starting to exercise and stuff, you may have to figure out, you know, if your body is doing better on its own. And if it is, taking excess thyroid hormone can actually make you feel worse. And in fact, the symptoms of overstimulated thyroid is very similar to an understimulated thyroid. And it can be nerve-wracking. Like, I was nervous. In fact, I've actually tried to get off my thyroid medication a few times the last 6 months. I would get off of it, but then I'd get nervous because, you know, the perception is that thyroid hormone is what helps you maintain weight. And I was worried about, I was worried about gaining weight if I got off of it. And even if it was like a little bit too much for me, I kind of was like thinking like, well, that doesn't matter. That's okay, because it's helping me maintain my weight, you know. And so I was just nervous. I'd take it out for, you know, like 5 days, and then my weight would maybe go up a pound, and then I'd freak out and put it back in, you know, just too nervous about that. So when I finally made this decision 6 weeks ago and took it out for good, I just decided to myself, you know, even if I go up a pound or two, I'm not gonna chicken out and go back to it, because I really need to see this through and see it out and see what happens. Now, what's very interesting about what happened is when I first got off of my thyroid, my weight went up just a little bit, like maybe fluctuated up and down like a pound higher than I had been. So I had been fluctuating between like 123 and 124 and a half for a while. And then when I took it out, I was fluctuating more between 124.5 and 125.5. So it was about a pound more. But like I said, I just decided to stick it out. Now what's interesting is the whole next month, all of March, I only fasted once the entire month of March. Actually, I forgot. That's the other thing that was different, is I stopped fasting as frequently, because now that I'm CrossFitting 4 days a week, I just thought, you know, maybe that's too much. You know, maybe I need more food. So I only CrossFitted once, and my weight actually started going down. Well, you can see it. I'll show it to you guys I'm going to show you these pictures. But it's definitely fluctuated, but in the end, I haven't gained weight back. And the cool thing is taking out the thyroid, actually, because that's what my body needed, in part, I actually ended up losing fat and gaining muscle. So I don't know. In the end, what's most important is that your body is in balance, and just throwing more, you know, more thyroid hormone at it, or whatever the case may be, is not going to solve the problem if that's not the problem, you know. So in this case, I actually benefited by taking it out, because now my body is operating really well, and I can tell because I feel really well. And yeah, so that was just such an exciting thing that I was like so glad that I could finish my quarterly report to you guys, that I am in the best place I've ever been in my entire life, really. Even though as a teen I was thin and I was fit, I didn't lift heavy weights at that time, so I wasn't very muscled. And so, you know, I finished my 5th round of hCG with 21.3 pounds of fat, and that put me at 17.9% body fat at the time. And so now, 16 months later, I'm 18.3 pounds body fat, pounds of fat, which is 3 pounds less fat than when I finished hCG, and that puts me at 15% body fat. So, and that morning I was 122 pounds on the scale. So, so that was pretty exciting stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit about challenges that I have when it comes to overdoing it with food, because I still struggle with that myself at times. So one of my little treats that I like to have is dried mango. I love the taste of mango. It's just so sweet. And so I'll tend to buy dried mango, and I get the organic kind. And when I do, it doesn't have any like sulfites or any stuff like that. It's like an all natural kind. But they sell it in a certain size package, you know, so I'll like get this large package, and what I'll find myself doing is eating way too much of it, and then it's like feels like this nasty gummy like feeling in my tummy, because I just have all this like gummy dried mango in my stomach, and I eat, you know, too much of it. I mean, it's quite sugary, and I'll end up eating the whole bag within 2 days, you know, and it just like, oh, you know. And my weight, like I said, it may go up a little bit if I do that kind of a thing, but then I never do that more than a day or two, because the package is gone and then I don't buy another one. So so on occasion I'll do that. What I've started doing now is, instead of buying the bag, they actually sell it in bins where you can just take however much you want. So now what I've done, which I figure is better, is I just take enough as a treat for that day, and it's a much smaller amount, and that way I know I can go ahead and eat the whole bag, whatever's in there, whatever I put in there, and you know, and that's it, and it's fine. So again, it's still probably a fairly high sugar content, and so, you know, if I did eat that one evening, the following day I would be more cautious about what I ate, and just eat more clean than usual. And again, it's just a balancing act, you know. If there's people out there who just never indulge and always eat the perfect way, then I think that's great if you're able to do that. And in general, if you really were to watch my diet on a daily basis, you would definitely say that it's much cleaner than the average person's diet. However, like I said, I do still eat, you know, larger amounts here and there of fruit and dried fruit. You know, when I make my smoothies, I make them with whole whole fat coconut milk, and I'll use a half cup of coconut milk sometimes in my smoothies, and that's a lot of fat. I mean, I'm totally into high fat and everything, but you know, if I have 2 smoothies in a day and there's like that ends up being like a whole cup of coconut milk, that's a lot of fat grams, and I can kind of tell that it's probably a little much because like my bowel movement will be a little awkward and strange. So anyway, you know, it's not something that I would want to do on a daily basis. So there's definitely things that I eat and ways that I eat that I'll recognize to myself, like, okay, I wouldn't want to do this daily, because if I did, I probably would start gaining some weight. And if I do have that start happening, I make corrections by eating cleaner or, you know, fasting for a day, just stuff like that, you know, and that really does help keep things in balance for me. One thing that has made it so much easier to maintain my weight, which I've talked about before, is the fact that I'm dairy and nut free. That's just done so much for me, and it makes it so easy now for me to maintain my weight, and just so that I don't have to think about it, you know. So that's that. One other challenge is that, you know, I have a great family, and I had a couple emotional stresses in my life the last few months that I'm not accustomed to. I don't have a very emotionally stressful life. I'm a little bit sheltered, and I'm grateful for that. You know, my husband and I, we work very well together. We don't argue a lot. And anyway, so a couple times in the last few months where some scenarios came up, not with my husband and I, but just some scenarios came up that were pretty stressful emotionally. And I was really glad with how I handled them, because in the past, I may have eaten a lot of food, you know, to comfort myself. And one particular time, this was like a couple months ago now, it actually involved something with our landlord, and she was actually very verbally, to me, almost verbally abusive, and it was very hard on me. I'm a very sensitive person. If you guys, in fact, I'll talk about it in a second with the whole Facebook thing. Even if someone writes a mean comment on my YouTube video, it like makes me feel horrible for the whole day, and I just can't help it. It just makes me feel so sad, and I try to not think about it, and it doesn't matter. I'll just feel horrible. So I'm really sensitive that way. And so anyway, this little interaction with this lady just really threw me off. I felt horrible. I was doing that thing where, you know, you walk around the house like crying and cleaning at the same time, and just kind of not knowing what you're doing. And anyway, it was really pathetic. But anyway, the point was, is I was supposed to go to CrossFit like in 20 minutes when this happened, right? So she leaves, and I'm crying, and I'm like, the last thing I want to do is like put on my workout clothes and go to CrossFit. Like, I feel so weak. Like, I just want to curl up in my bed and cry, you know, for hours. But I put my clothes on, and I was like, you know, I can always go home. And that's what I always tell myself. Anytime I don't feel like going to CrossFit, I always tell myself, just get your little booty there, and if you want to go home, you can. So I went there, and I got through the workout, you know, and I didn't feel good. Probably one of the worst times I've felt while being there. I felt so down. But I got through the workout, and I was glad I did, because instead of doing something to sabotage myself and hurt myself over what someone else did, I mean, I would have been so irritated with myself, you know, because of what this person did. If I were to hurt myself, it just doesn't make sense, right? But yet that's what we feel like doing because of how we're feeling. So I was really glad that I handled it that way. I didn't really feel any better after CrossFit, but the point was that I hadn't done anything that I was going to have to now fix later. I kept up with my healthy routine, and you know, same thing with my eating. For the most part, I was able to keep that under control, and I was really glad about that. So anyway, I hope that you guys find that helpful. You know, one other thing I wanted to mention is, you know, sometimes people get a little scared when they're, especially on P2, if you weigh yourself more. I only weigh myself once in the mornings, and that's really the best thing to do. You don't want to weigh yourself multiple times a day, because your weight does vary, and it doesn't mean that you know, gained fat or gained weight. As an example, I have in my post, I'll show it to you, before I ate a meal, I have a picture of me at 123, and then all I ate was, you know, a meal of like potato and chicken and, you know, just a nice full meal, and I was nice and full after. And then after I got on the scale and I was 125 pounds, 2 pounds heavier. But, you know, next morning I wasn't still 125 pounds. So I was back to, you know, I think probably 124 or something. But just to show you how weight does vary throughout the day, and that's totally normal. So don't freak yourself out by weighing yourself all the time and thinking that like you've gained weight, because that's not the case. So anyway, I think that's all that I have for you guys. Of course, as usual, I can't make a short video, but really I'm trying to, you know, tell you guys about how the whole last 3 months have gone, so it kind of makes sense that it would take a little bit. But anyway, so you can maintain your weight. It's just you have to find the foods that your body likes that don't cause inflammation, and for you they may be different. You may be fine with dairy, but then there's certain vegetables that don't sit well or whatever, you know. So you got to do that. And then, you know, I really think my CrossFit has done a lot for me. It's completely changed my metabolism. That's why I feel like I'm able to eat freely. I am to that point where I'm no longer, you know, stuffing myself and getting overly full all the time. I don't do that anymore. But, you know, I eat a hearty amount of food, and I don't think about, when I make a salad, I'm not thinking about like, oh, is this salad too big, or is the oil I'm pouring on it, is that too much calories? I don't think about that at all. I keep my olive oil in a wine bottle. I, you know, chop up a whole head of kale. I just take a big handful of dried cranberries, throw it on there. I pour the olive oil over my salad, and then I pour some balsamic vinegar, and I have no idea whatsoever how many calories is in that salad. And, you know, sometimes the salad's bigger, sometimes it's smaller, but, you know, the olive oil, you know, 1 teaspoon of olive oil has what, like 120 calories or something in a fat like that. And I could be using 3 teaspoons, I'm not sure. So who knows, my salad could be 700 calories or 800 calories. I have no idea. But the point is it doesn't matter, because everything that I'm eating now and how much I eat of it, I'm able to do freely, and it doesn't affect my weight or me maintaining my weight loss. And that's really what counts. And if on occasion when I do get a little bit out of control, I know it. And I do what I'm supposed to do to fix it. As you can see, I do weigh myself almost daily. On occasion, I don't weigh for a few days or even a week, but for the most part, I do weigh every day. And for me, it's just a feedback mechanism. And it helps me decide, like, oh, is today a freer eating day, or is today a slightly cleaner eating day? And either way, it doesn't matter, you know, because even my clean eating days I can enjoy. When you're able to keep things in balance like this, it's so much easier than kind of, you know, shutting the curtains and trying to not look because you know something bad may be going on, and just ignoring it until you're 30 pounds higher. And now, you know, you have all this correction to that is going to be painful. And, you know, if that happens, it happens. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. But we all recognize that being on hCG or any diet is not easy. Because it's this thing you have to do for quite some time, for a few weeks or 6 weeks or 2 months. And when I correct things that are just a pound or two here and there, that only requires that I be really self-disciplined for a day or two here and there, you know, versus weeks. So it's just so much easier to be more aware of where I'm at and just make changes as I need to for a day here and there. So anyway, I hope you guys found that helpful. So yeah, right now I'm basically maintaining between 123 and 124. That's where I am most days at the moment. And so what I'll do is for April, May, June, I will kind of, you know, see how things go and take some little notes, and then I'll give you guys a second quarterly report. So I hope you guys found that helpful. And yeah, thanks for watching. And you can find me on Facebook, hCGChica. I'm also on Instagram, hCGChica, and my blog, hCGChica.com. Take care, guys. Bye.